The news traveled through Bear Creek like a spark hitting dry grass. A legendary mountain man had come down from the high country, thin as a ghost, and moving like every step hurt. No one knew why he was there so early in the season. No one knew what he wanted. But everyone talked about the same thing. Nathaniel Bridger looked like a man running out of time. Inside the smallest cabin behind the trading post, Emma had no idea that the stranger who would change her whole life had already arrived. She worked by the dim afternoon light, her hands moving fast, as she mended a torn buckskin shirt. She was only 24, but her tired hands and quiet eyes showed years of hard work. Outside, the sounds of the trading post carried through the walls. Men haggled over beaver pelts. Horses stomped in the cold mud. The blacksmith hammered iron until sparks jumped across the dirt. Behind her, her Aunt Ruth coughed again, a sharp, rattling cough that made Emma flinch every time. Emma set down her needle and hurried to her aunt's side. Ruth's face was pale and thin. Her breathing came in painful gasps. Emma lifted her gently and held a cup of warm pine needle tea to her lips. "You'll get better," Emma whispered. But they both knew the truth. Ruth was slipping away. And if she died, Emma would have no home, no job, no family left in the world. The trading post owner, Silas Henderson, had already warned her twice that he needed workers who could pull their weight. He wasn't cruel. He was just a man running a business on the edge of the frontier. And Emma was hanging on by a single thread. The spring brigade was coming soon. Trappers would flood into the post to trade their winter catch. Emma would cook for them, mend their clothes, do whatever Silas asked. She had worked like this her whole life, quiet, steady, unnoticed. But that spring, everything changed the moment a tall man stepped into the trading post. His name carried farther than smoke on a cold morning. Nathaniel Bridger, the mountain man who had survived storms that killed other men. The trapper who knew hidden valleys and secret trails no map ever showed. A man who built his fortune one cold winter at a time. Emma saw him for the first time when she brought stew to the long table where the trappers gathered. He stood at the counter, talking to Silas Henderson. His beard was streaked with gray. His eyes were sharp but tired. His skin held a strange yellow hue, and his movements looked slow, careful, like every motion cost him something. Emma felt a chill even before she understood why. He looked like a man fighting something inside his own body. Over the next few days, she saw him often. But not with the other trappers. He wasn't drinking or laughing or bragging about his winter catch. Instead, he sold off his furs, then his traps, then his pack mules. Emma had never seen a mountain man do that. Trapping wasn't just work, it was their life. Something was wrong. She sensed it deep in her bones, the same way she sensed storms before they hit. That evening, after she finished serving supper and cleaned the long tables, Silas called her to the back room. Her stomach tightened with fear. He had never asked for her privately before. She pushed open the door. Silas stood behind his desk, but beside him stood Nathaniel Bridger. Up close, his face looked carved by years of wind and worry. But there was a stillness in his eyes that made Emma nervous. "Emma," Silas said, "Mr. Bridger has something to discuss with you." He stepped out, closing the door behind him. Emma froze, hands clasped together. Nathaniel gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." She obeyed. He stayed standing, leaning slightly on the edge of the desk, as if his legs no longer trusted him. "I'll speak plainly," he said. "A doctor at Fort Laramie examined me. I have a sickness in my liver. He gave me a year. Maybe less." Emma felt her breath catch. The words settled like cold water in her stomach. Nathaniel continued, "I've lived alone for many years. I built a home high in the mountains, a strong cabin, good land. I have caches of goods and pelts worth more than most men ever see. But I have no one to leave it to." He paused, watching her closely. "I was married once. She died in childbirth. And since then, I've had no family." Emma swallowed hard. "What does this have to do with me?" she asked softly. Nathaniel let out a slow breath. "I need an heir. Someone to inherit everything I leave behind. And I need a wife who can bear that child." Her heart pounded in her ears. His next words stunned her. "I'm asking you to marry me." Emma stared at him, unable to speak. "You would come with me to my cabin." Nathaniel continued. "Live there for the year I have left. If you bear me a child, everything I own, every pelt, every tool, every piece of land, will be yours and the child's." He looked away, then back at her. "I'll pay for your aunt to receive the best care possible. Doctor, medicine, warm room. You won't have to worry about her again." Emma's throat tightened, and in return she whispered in return. He said quietly, "You give me an heir, someone to carry my name, someone to live for when I'm gone." Emma sat frozen. This was not love, not courtship, not a dream. It was desperation on both sides. A mountain man facing death, a young woman facing life alone. Emma left the room shaking. That night, as she listened to Ruth's weak breathing, she understood what Nathaniel had really offered. Not romance, but survival. And she was running out of choices. Emma barely slept that night. She sat beside Ruth's bed until dawn, turning Nathaniel Bridger's words over in her mind like stones she could not stop touching. The offer was cold, practical, almost frightening in its bluntness. But the world outside their thin walls was colder still. And every harsh cough from Ruth felt like time running out. In the morning, Ruth woke weak, but alert enough to sense Emma's worry. "What did that mountain man want with you?" she whispered. Emma hesitated, then told her everything. The proposal, the promise of care, the impossible choice. Ruth listened quietly, her pale hands folded on the blanket. When Emma finished, Ruth's eyes softened. "He's offering you life, child." Ruth said, "Take it." "But Aunt Ruth, he doesn't love me." Emma whispered, "Love." Ruth coughed, a deep, painful sound. Love comes later. Sometimes not at all. But safety? A roof? A future? Those don't come often in this world. "And you deserve them." Emma swallowed hard. "It feels so cold." "Life out here is cold," Ruth said. But he was honest. Many men wouldn't be, and I won't be here much longer. I need to know you'll be safe. Those words cut deeper than any knife. Later that evening, with despair rattling inside her chest, Emma found Nathaniel outside the trading post. He sat on a wooden barrel, pipe in hand, watching the mountains turn purple beneath the setting sun. She approached slowly, "Mr. Bridger," she said, voice trembling. "I accept, but I have conditions." He stood, giving her his full attention. "Name them." "My Aunt Ruth must have proper care. Medicine, a warm room, a doctor who checks on her." "You have my word," he said immediately. "And the child," she continued, heart pounding. "I will raise him or her with kindness, not just survival. You must agree to that." Quote. Nathaniel nodded. "I'd expect nothing less." She took a deep breath. "I want to know where we'll live." He told her about the cabin, high in the mountains, strong walls, nearby spring, safe and isolated. Hard winters, hard work, quiet life. No neighbors but the Crow tribe, who respected him. By the end of his explanation, Emma knew her decision was final. The next morning, they married in the trading post's main room. There were no flowers, no choir, no feast, just a Bible, 2 witnesses, and the smell of wood smoke. Nathaniel stood straight despite his illness. Emma's hands shook as she said her vows. Ruth sat wrapped in blankets, smiling weakly, tears shining in her tired eyes. Afterward, Nathaniel paid the doctor in gold coins. Ruth was moved into a warm room in Silas Henderson's home, cared for with real medicine for the first time in months. A week later, Emma packed her few belongings, and just like that, she left everything she had ever known. Nathaniel led her out of Bear Creek with 3 pack mules and 2 strong horses. They traveled through forests, thick with pine and aspen, across creeks swollen with melting snow. Emma's legs ached, her hands blistered, her heart broke again and again every time she imagined Ruth alone without her. But Nathaniel stayed patient. At their first camp, he taught her how to build a fire with damp wood, how to keep her bedroll dry, how to listen for signs of approaching storms. Emma listened carefully. She was determined not to disappoint him, not to fail at this strange life she had agreed to. By the third day, they climbed higher into the mountains. Snow still hid in the shadows of rocks. The air grew thinner, colder. Emma found herself dizzy and breathless. Nathaniel slowed their pace. "You're doing well," he said softly. "Most women from the settlements don't last a day out here." Emma appreciated the words more than he knew. One night by a mountain lake, Nathaniel caught trout with nothing but a line and hook. He showed Emma how to clean the fish, how to cook them on hot stones. The meal tasted better than anything she had eaten in years. "Tell me about your wife," Emma said quietly as they ate. Nathaniel stared into the fire for a long moment before speaking. Singing Bird was Shoshone. He said strong, braver than most men. "She saved my life when I was young and foolish. We lived together 5 years." His voice softened. "She died giving birth. I buried her myself." Emma felt tears sting the back of her eyes. She whispered, "I'm sorry." Nathaniel nodded once, not looking at her. "I never thought I'd have a family again." They traveled on. Halfway through the journey, they met a small crow hunting party. Emma froze when she saw the warriors, their horses painted, rifles slung across their backs. But Nathaniel walked forward with calm familiarity, greeting them in their own language. They embraced him like a long-lost brother. One of the warriors, Spotted Elk, studied Emma for a long moment. Then he smiled and placed a hand over his heart. "You are welcome in this land," he said in slow, careful English. Any woman of Nathaniel Bridger is friend of the crow. He gave her a small medicine pouch for protection. "For the new life you carry," Emma's breath caught. She hadn't told a soul. Nathaniel looked at her in surprise, then at Spotted Elk. "He has sharp eyes." Nathaniel murmured later as the warriors rode away, "If he says you carry my child, he's rarely wrong." Emma didn't know what to feel. Fear, wonder, hope. On the 7th day, they reached the cabin. It stood strong against the wind, nestled between towering pines, smoke blackened from years of winters. A clear stream shimmered nearby. The mountains rose around them like silent guardians. "This is home," Nathaniel said quietly. And for the first time in her life, Emma felt something she had never felt before: possibility. Life in the high mountains changed Emma faster than she expected. The cabin was solid and warm, built with thick logs, and a stone hearth that held heat deep into the night. The land around it felt untouched, almost sacred, with towering pines and a clear stream that sang softly through the valley. It was quiet, far quieter than Bear Creek. At first, the silence frightened her. Then it began to soothe her. Nathaniel wasted no time teaching her everything she would need to know. "This place can be gentle," he told her, "but the mountains respect no one who isn't prepared." From sunrise to sunset, Emma learned how to gather herbs, how to smoke meat so it would last the winter, how to read the shapes of clouds and the way the wind shifted, how to shoot a rifle, how to track game, how to set traps the way Nathaniel had done for decades. "You'll need all of this," he said, "for the baby. For yourself. For what's coming." Emma felt the weight of his words, the truth hiding inside them. Nathaniel grew weaker little by little. Not all at once. Slowly, quietly, like a fire burning down to embers. But he never complained. They fell into a rhythm. He spent his mornings checking traps or hunting the small game that lived in the valley. Emma cooked, cleaned, repaired clothing, and kept the cabin stocked. In the evenings, they sat together by the fire. Nathaniel told stories about his early years in the mountains: frostbite, close calls with grizzlies, storms that nearly killed him. Emma listened in awe. The man sitting beside her wasn't just a mountain man. He was a legend shaped by hardship and survival. And slowly, something began to shift between them. What had begun as a bargain, a cold promise made out of desperation, started warming into something gentler, something human. Nathaniel became softer with her. He asked her opinion. He smiled more. He touched her hand when he passed tools to her or guided her horse through rocky trails. The distance between them shrank without either of them speaking about it. When Emma realized she was pregnant, she waited 2 weeks to be certain before telling him. They were sitting on the porch watching the sun fade behind the peaks. "Nathaniel," she whispered, "I think I carry your child." He turned slowly, as if afraid to believe her. When her words settled, a deep, raw emotion crossed his face, something she had never seen in him before. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He closed his eyes for a moment, breathing out shakily. Then he took her hands in his, holding them with a careful reverence. "Thank you," he said. "Emma, thank you." That night he held her differently, gentler, closer. And afterward, he did not leave her bed. He fell asleep with his arm around her, and Emma realized she felt safe in a way she had never felt in her life. Months passed. The mountains turned green, then gold. Nathaniel prepared for winter with fierce determination, gathering enough food, wood, and supplies to carry his family through the cold months. Emma's belly grew round. Jacob kicked strong and steady. Nathaniel whispered to the unborn child, telling him stories of rivers and ridges, of the freedom of the high country. But the sickness in his liver grew worse. Some mornings he could barely stand. Some nights Emma heard him groan quietly when he thought she was asleep. The pain lined his face, hollowed his cheeks. Yet he never stopped teaching her, never stopped making sure she would know how to survive when he no longer could. "I don't want you to fear this place," he told her one evening as they checked a line of traps. "These mountains hold danger, but they also hold life. And you belong here now." Emma nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to tell him she loved him, but she waited, wanting to find the right moment. It came in late October. Nathaniel collapsed outside the cabin, and Emma rushed to his side, helping him inside. His breathing was rough, his skin cold with sweat. She held him by the fire, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Nathaniel, please fight. Please stay with me." He cupped her face with trembling hands. "You've become everything I didn't know I needed." He whispered, "These months you gave me peace. You gave me a home. I love you, Emma." She broke then, the words bursting through her like a flood. "I love you too." She cried, "I love you." Nathaniel winter came early that year. Snow piled against the cabin walls. The wind howled like a living creature. Nathaniel grew weaker by the day. Emma stayed by his side, tending the fire, rubbing his hands to keep them warm, whispering stories so he would not feel alone. On January 1st, during a fierce storm, Emma went into labor. The pain hit her like hammer blows. She worked through it alone, her body trembling, fear clawing at her chest. Nathaniel tried to stay awake beside her, but he slipped in and out of consciousness. "Stay with me," Emma begged. "Please, stay with me." Hours passed. The storm raged. And then, as dawn broke, a baby's cry filled the cabin. A boy. Strong, loud, alive. Emma wrapped him in warm blankets and carried him to Nathaniel's side. Nathaniel opened his eyes. When he saw his son, tears slid down his weathered cheeks. "Jacob," he whispered. "Our Jacob." Emma placed the baby in his arms. Jacob quieted instantly, as if he knew his father's touch. Nathaniel kissed his son's forehead. Then he looked at Emma with love and gratitude deeper than words. "Take care of him," he whispered. "Tell him who I was. Tell him I loved him." "And you," Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I promise." Nathaniel held her hand. "Thank you for giving me everything I ever wanted." When the sun rose fully, Nathaniel Bridger took his last breath. Emma held him through the final silence. He died, loved. He died with family. And Emma, heartbroken but unbroken, carried on. She buried him in the spring under the wide mountain sky, raising Jacob with every skill, every lesson, every piece of love Nathaniel had given her. She built a life stronger than steel. A mother. A mountain woman. A keeper of legacy. Jacob grew into the kind of man his father would have been proud of. And Emma never forgot the truth she learned in those mountains. Love does not always come gently. Sometimes it arrives in the form of a dying man offering a bargain that seems impossible. But sometimes it becomes the very thing that saves you.